Wake up, Toronto. It's 6 a.m. on Monday, March 11th, 2019. I'm your host, Miss Bollywood. Let's hit you up with the forecast. It's -2 right now and will dip down to -6 tonight, but it's going to feel like a good -13 degrees Celsius. There will be cloudy skies and light flurries are also expected throughout the day. You know what they say, Mother Nature is unpredictable. I'm waiting for her to switch gears and bring on the warm temperatures, man. But she's being a huge tease right now by giving us a taste of the pluses and then taking it straight away. On today's show, there is a lot of stories to cover and feelings to let out. First up, our girl J-Lo got engaged to Alex Rodriguez. The former baseball player posted an Instagram photo captioned, "She said yes," and there was a close-up of the emerald cut diamond ring, which is estimated to be a whopping $1.4 million. Nothing says I love you than a huge rock. Gentlemen, take notes. Lots of congratulatory comments were made by her celebrity friends, including Jenna Dewan, Ellen DeGeneres, Gabrielle Union, and Gwen Stefani. The couple have been dating since 2017, and on both their social media feeds are photos of their kids and family hanging out together, which is so sweet. I'm very happy for them, despite the accusations from another former baseball player named Jose Canseco, who claims that Alex was cheating on Jennifer with his ex-wife, Jessica. He took to Twitter and said that he was willing to take a polygraph test to prove that he was telling the truth. This is unbelievable. For goodness sakes. I mean, the way I see it, why now? And why rain on someone's parade? They are ready to start a new life together, and whether it's the truth or not, as a couple, it's up to them on how they want to build their relationship. It's not the outside world who gets to decide that. Anyway, a huge hug and kisses to these lovebirds and wishing them both a beautiful, happily ever after. There are a lot of movies releasing in March, and perfect for students on spring break to keep them busy and excited, of course. Here are 5 suggestions and my take on whether you should see it or skip it. Captain Marvel is officially out. It hit theaters on March 8th. The plot is about a woman named Carol Danvers who becomes one of the universe's most powerful heroes when Earth is caught in the middle of a galactic war between 2 alien races. Ooh, sounds like a really good plot. And I love a fantastic female lead in a movie. It's just awesome. Now, it runs about 2 hours and 4 minutes, which is average for an intricate storyline and action-packed movie. My fiance really wants to check out Captain Marvel, and he says he's a huge fan, but I'm pretty sure he thinks she's hot. I mean, he gets all shy and flustered when he watches the TV show Supergirl. But I'm okay with that because Captain Marvel, who's played by Brie Larson, is quite attractive. So eye candy for the both of us. If you're a fanatic of Marvel films, including the Avengers and the OG superheroes like Captain America, the Hulk, Iron Man, Thor, Black Widow, etc., then these films are most definitely for you. To give it that extra icing on the cake, it has received an 80% freshness on Rotten Tomatoes. Come on, we all go there once in a while to check out which movies are popular, so I'm sure all of you guys are guilty. And in fact, Captain Marvel has currently made the top box office reports. It's racked in about $151 million in the last 4 days. My final verdict? See it. The next movie is Us. It's about a character named Adelaide Wilson who returns to the beachfront home where she grew up as a child. She's accompanied by her husband, son, and daughter. Now, she's haunted by a traumatic experience from the past, which makes Adelaide grow increasingly concerned that something bad is going to happen to her and her family. Her fear becomes a reality when 4 masked strangers descend upon the house. They force the Wilsons into a fight for survival, and then, when the masks come off, each stranger takes the appearance of a different family member. Dun dun dun. I enjoy a good horror thriller, so maybe my opinion will be slightly biased, but I was drawn into the synopsis, and after researching, I found out the director by the name Jordan Peele, who made this movie, also created the psychological thriller Get Out, which I absolutely found terrifying and awesome at the same time. The movie is set to release March 22nd, and I'm going to straight up say this. Go and see it, guys. All right, Disney lovers, what would you do if your imagination was brought to life? Well, you won't have to think about that anymore. Wonder Park is a movie about an amusement park where a girl named June's creative thoughts magically happen. I saw this preview and it had a unique element to it. I'd most likely wait for it to come onto DVD, but if you enjoy animated stuff, then this one is for you. I'm gonna let you decide whether to skip it or see it. This next film is for the moviegoers who like a good cry and romance. I'm not gonna lie, I do too. So 5 Feet Apart will most definitely give you that feeling. It's about a 17-year-old girl named Stella who suffers from a disease called cystic fibrosis and spends most of her time in a hospital. Her days consist of a lifetime of routines, boundaries, and self-control. But that's ultimately put to the test when she meets a guy named Will, who also shares the same disease. Now, if you enjoyed movies like The Fault in Our Stars and Everything, Everything, I think it's much similar on that front. Again, I'll leave that decision to you, whether to see it or skip it. I really do think spring has a lot of genre selection this year in 2019. Okay, so this is the 5th and final movie I'm going to talk about. And when I was reading about it, I got pretty creeped out because the topic of aliens and other creatures invading our world scares me. I mean, there has been hundreds of documentaries and shows based off of trying to prove that they exist and have actually been seen. Anyway, Captive State is the title of the film, and it follows a similar plot where extraterrestrial beings take over a Chicago neighborhood and people have to try and survive under their rule. It sounds intense. I'm going to skip it based off of my fears, but it does look really good, so I'm going to recommend you to go and see it. I don't know where to begin with this next thing I'm going to talk about. After seeing a snippet to Gayle King's CBS interview with R. Kelly, I decided to watch the 6 episodes of the Surviving R. Kelly series. The reason I didn't watch it at first was not because I supported Robert's point of view. It was the fear of knowing the details of what these young girls and women went through. You see, I get very emotional watching documentaries like these because I really feel for people, and hearing their heartbreaking stories causes me to worry to a point where I can't sleep at night. With this news, I didn't feel indifferent, but I had this inner part of me that just had to know what was going on. I mean, R. Kelly has been in the news for decades regarding child pornography, which the case was dismissed and he was let go. And rumors of him peeing on an underage girl where videos were later on leaked. Having said that, I grew up listening to R. Kelly, especially the song Remix to Ignition. When that would play at school dances, everyone would get hype and do the iconic routine from the video. People really thought he was a musical genius, which was repeated a lot during the Surviving R. Kelly series. I was not prepared for what I was about to hear when watching the documentary and all the malicious things he'd done to these women, from the brainwashing to the torture. It was hard to fathom, particularly because he was a famous person. They have everything and anything that they want, all the success and glory, and of course, other celeb friendships. And Robert was lucky enough to do collabs with Lady Gaga, Celine Dion, Kanye West, Omarion, Jay-Z. The list keeps going on and on extensively. You know, these are huge names in the industry who have so much respect from fans. With all his wealth, should Robert have not wanted to continue with music, he could have retired and lived a lavish life until the end of his days. I understand with fame, some people have vices like addiction to alcohol or drugs, and we often lose them to overdose. Such talented people like Whitney Houston, Amy Winehouse, Corey Monteith, Heath Ledger, Brittany Murphy, just to name a few. But forcing sickening acts onto another human being for your own pleasure is disgusting. As the stories unraveled, I saw a pattern emerge of Kelly preying on young girls because he had this fetish. Each woman had been through similar situations. There was even proof with these sex videos, something which Kelly was notorious for because so many of his victims and management team knew about it and had seen it firsthand. I can understand the reasons why the women may have wanted to pursue seeing R. Kelly despite what he was putting them through, because they had their dreams of being well-known and a famous singer. But Kelly made fake promises and introduced a life of abuse that was both emotional, physical, and mental. Like, what kind of human being would make another starve unless they went out and asked for his permission? And once it was granted, they was able to go to the bathroom and, of course, eat something. Wow. Anyway, I won't give too much more away. If you haven't seen it, I urge you to. It will open your eyes. I then followed up and watched the Gayle King interview, and Kelly denied everything. And I mean everything. His claim is the women that he had relationships with sexually or was married to, they were working together to make money off of him. So basically, they were conspiring against him to ruin his identity and tarnish his image. He was clearly playing the victim. And there's this picture that's circulating and has become a big part of history books, I will tell you, in the near future. It is a moment in time from the interview where Kelly gets out of his chair and raises his hand in the air, and Gayle is still sitting in her chair looking straight ahead. It's a very powerful shot that shows this patriarchy figure versus this submissive state, sort of playing homage to all the women he was with and how they were treated by him. My prayers are with the family and victims who are still suffering. We can't undo the damage, but we can learn from it and rise up together. I hope more evidence comes forward in due time and that justice is soon served. Last week, I had a guest and wonderful friend, Latasha Mason, on the show, who recently published a children's book called Zaina the Brave, which is about a young girl who becomes a victim to bullying and is fat-shamed by kids in her class. During the interview, we learned a lot about where the story was inspired from, the hidden meanings in the illustrations, and some other interesting facts. Here is part 2 of my conversation with Latasha. Have a listen. When I went through the bullying phases of my life, like the extreme, to this day, like if I ever run into any one of them, they don't really look at me in the eye. It's just one of those, if you're a bully, you got to realize the things that you're going to live with if you do this to just innocent people who are just living their lives.
The thing. They don't realize it when they're children. I think I read somewhere the human brain doesn't even fully develop until you're 25. Mm-hmm. And so when they're a child, that's why it is so important for adults and older people to get involved and explain to these children the repercussions of what goes on when you do bully someone, and they need to learn compassion. You need to think about the other person's feelings. How are you making this person feel when you do this? It's not, for laughs and giggles. It's not just a rite of passage, like our former President Obama had said, because he had gone through it too. He said, it's not a rite of passage. It's not right, and it needs to be stopped. So I think that's something that we really need to hit home. We need to discuss that with them and make them understand, how you can be harming someone, even if you're not even putting your hands on them. There's more than one way to bully someone. You can verbally bully people, and that can also be more harmful sometimes than actually physically hitting someone,
Exactly. And speaking of, having adults intervene and be involved, we can see that Zaina the Brave is the real superstar, but she had a couple people who really sort of inspired her and spoke to her to give her that extra push. And, she was teased about her weight and about her looks. And her teacher was very influential. And was it her brother, I think?
Yes, her big brother. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So it's funny that you mentioned how adults should get involved. It's in her story, in Zaina's world. It's really incredible to see teachers stepping up and, family reaching out their hand and, giving them that extra push to stand up for themselves and sort of bring things to an end. So I really liked that. That one scene, like, did that happen in real life with you and with your teacher that you included in the book?
That is an actual thing that happened in real life. I did have an conversation with the teacher, and I did go to that teacher and say, hey, this person keeps calling me fat. And she said exactly what I put in the book, And I thought it was so important to share that because I know, even when I was a child, it wasn't cool to go talk to a teacher and tell a teacher, it was called snitching or tattletelling.
Exactly.
So, it was something that, you could get teased or picked on even more for going to talk to an adult about something that was going on in the playground or at the bus stop or on the bus or whatever. You were called a snitch and you got bullied even more. And I wanted kids to understand, no, you tell. You talk to people, and see if they can resolve it for you. And the importance of that as well is also so that people could see that the steps that need to be taken were taken, but the bullying persists. That is what happens with some of these kids. It's not that they never spoke up. That's the misperception that a lot of people have. They feel like, oh, well, they never said anything or they isolated themselves. Some students do, but some do actually speak up, and the bullying just never stops. And I feel like that's where I wanted to create awareness, and so that we can do a better job as adults, as caregivers, to be able to come up with some type of protocol where we are helping these kids that are being bullied. And some of the questions that I've been being asked, in doing these interviews about the approach that Zaina had, and I went back and forth about how I wanted Zaina to handle the situation because there were so many different scenarios that I could have chosen. And I just wanted her to be creative because she was very bright. One of the questions they asked is that, Zaina went to school intending on sticking up for herself. At that point, I kind of questioned, did you read the rest of the book, where she had been bullied the whole book. At what point is it okay for a child to stick up for themselves? You know what I mean? Even though she didn't hit anyone, she did not invoke violence on anyone, people were still looking at her, for standing up for herself and how she should be punished. And I said, I think that's what we're failing these kids. We're thinking about penalizing them for sticking up for themselves instead of finding a better way to get the bullying to stop. We're victimizing the victim even more instead of finding a way to get the bullying to stop. And so they feel like they have no solution because if they stick up for themselves, they're going to get suspended or they're going to get in trouble in some kind of way. And if they don't say anything, they're going to continue to get ridiculed and bullied. And so they feel like they're at a loss where they either don't want to be here anymore or they're like, okay, I'm going to go shoot everybody up. And that's where we need to step in and say, okay, how do we help them? And that's why I felt like Zaina the Brave was very important at this time.
Two things that can come through this. They can be taking their life if they just don't do anything about it, or resorting to violence. And gun violence has been increasing substantially everywhere, and kids are now just getting their hands on this without even being registered and walking around and having it with them. And, if somebody is against what they're saying, they'll just shoot them. It's
right.
I remember you saying, because this is like the first book, that, and of course bullying obviously never completely comes to a full stop, that you'd like to make Zaina the Brave into a series or something maybe in the near future?
Yes, yes.
Yes?
Yeah, so I had already been working on the second book, but through the process of finishing the first book, I had to make some changes to the second book. So yeah, I planned on doing at least 5 books for the series. The first book was intended to get everyone familiar with Zaina, and so that they can learn her story and see why she came to be called Zaina the Brave, how she earned her cape and what she had gone through. And then the rest of the series is going to be about learning her relationships with her friends, which she calls the Brave Team. We're going to learn a little bit more about Johnny the Bully. We're going to learn a little bit more about the Mean Twins and, the other characters in the book, and just learn how Zaina and the Brave Team comes to save the day for other people that are dealing with bullying and other issues like that.
That's incredible. You're taking this book to new heights, and I love it.
Thank
It's
you.
such a great thing you're doing, Latasha, honestly. And your book has been receiving amazing reviews. Tell me a few things you were not expecting to happen that, made you really happy.
I wasn't expecting the excitement about the cardinal. Like, people are really excited about that, and they literally are hunting down that cardinal on every page. I just thought that was amazing. Um, Another thing I thought was amazing was in one of the focus groups that I had with young girls, ages 9 to 12. It really opened up the discussion for things that they had witnessed, and things that had happened with their friends. And they really just openly discussed some of the things that I was hoping that would be a discussion starter for children their age. And so I said, oh, wow, I did my job.
Exactly.
These young ladies, I mean, they told me examples about kids their age, and we're talking between the ages of 9 and 12. They told me examples of kids who were cutting themselves. They were told me examples of kids who were contemplating suicide. And they told me about examples of kids being bullied and some of them being bullied. I think one even fessed up to at one point being a bully. And so I wanted this book to also be that, a vehicle for discussion. And that's exactly what it ended up being when I had this focus group. And I hadn't even intended on them discussing any of this. I really just was asking their opinion for the book, because if the kids like it, then everybody's gonna like it. And really, they said they loved it, and they just kept talking. And so I'm hoping that teachers and youth organizations can get the book, and whether they read it to them or have try to have a discussion with them, I'm hoping that they do that, and so that they can get more information out of these kids and maybe be able to help someone, because someone may be willing to discuss something that's going on with them.
Wow, I'm just mind blown right now. It's really evolving so much. And, I was thinking about it when I was growing up, around maybe in grade 2 or 3, it was more like a seminar. And other grade 2 classes would join our class, and they would talk about, your body and how to say no if adults are, offering candy, just all of those types of things. And we had a little puppet talk about serious scenarios and things that are happening, with, abduction or adults, trying to touch you in places
Right.
they shouldn't be. So when I think of that, I think of Zaina being part of the curriculum in a way where, they set up some fun little activities that they can do, maybe coloring or, quotes from the book or something like that can really make a huge impact. Because bullying, I feel to get to a extreme level of that type, it grows, right? So if you start by teaching kids in school, especially, that's why they go there, they can learn that, and they can deter that from happening. So
Right,
I
and
don't
my
think so.
editor and I were very mindful of that. My editor, Monique Matthews, I met her also through Tyrese, who worked on another one of his books that hasn't been released yet, Black Rose. I worked with her on that book, and she has been editor of some major publications. She is a professor at a college. I can't remember. It's one in California now, and she
That's okay. You're not
also
sure.
she also taught in elementary school. So that was one of our focuses, was making sure that we had the correct vocabulary and that we had vocabulary that the kids already knew, but also had vocabulary that they could aspire to learn, that we thought would be good for them to learn. And we wanted to make sure that it was something that teachers could use, within the classroom. Very much mindful of the classroom setting and, educational purposes and things like that as it relates to the book. And then also wanted to make sure, even though bullying is what the book is all about and what we're teaching about, I also have some other little things in there that kids notice as well. The various races of Zaina's friends, it's multicultural. There is going to be, I don't want to give things away, but
It's inclusive. It's very inclusive.
It's very inclusive.
Girl, your Facebook fan page, it has about 16K likes, I think, which is amazing. Your community is growing, and more people are getting involved and buying the book and leaving comments. And how does that make you feel?
Incredible, especially the feedback that I've been getting. I kind of anticipated, because you can't please everyone.
Of course.
I was kind of like, oh, if I put this in the story, is someone going to say something about this? I haven't gotten that yet. Maybe one or two questions here or there. But for the most part, everyone is just, they're just blown away by the illustrations. And my wonderful illustrator, Quinn Mobley, he tells everyone this was all her. I just did what she told me to do, because I'm very much hands-on and I'm very specific about what I want, from the colors to how I want the characters to look, their skin tones. I mean, just everything. And so he's like, she really didn't let me do anything. She just told me what she wanted.
You're very vocal about your vision.
He did an amazing job bringing it to life. I always tell him, and I tell everyone that, when I'm doing an interview, that although, he does humbly bring it back to me and say that, it was all me, I could not have brought it, to life without his incredible artistry,
Very talented. It's like you had a vision in your head and you're vocal about it, and you really knew what you wanted your characters to look like, so your story translates, smoothly, and he just made it happen. So that's like feel good vibes right there.
Yes. I mean, I gave him visual examples and everything. No, I want her hair like this. I was very specific because everything plays a part in the story. So it's like I couldn't have this person this complexion because it goes with their storyline. You know what I mean? So he would create the person. I'm like, no. I said I wanted this person this complexion because, and then I tell him a little bit more about the storyline, because he doesn't know what's going on in book 2. He just knows what I presented him with book 1, And so It's like, oh, no. She has to be this complexion because later on in the series, this is going to go on, or she has to have this, or this person has to do this. So yeah, it was a very, I don't know, the experience is just almost out of this world. You know what I mean? He's like, he tells me, you have this mind that's just crazy. For lack of a better word, we're just like, your mind is crazy. Like, it's crazy fabulous.
Crazy good, yeah. Okay. Fair enough. So you put, hours of hard work into this book, and I mean hours because, girl, I follow your Twitter feeds and your Facebook, like we're friends on there. So you're constantly, updating us of what's going on, especially in your book life and your private life. And your health and stuff. So with Zaina, what do you hope readers will take away from this?
I want our children to be resilient. I want them to be encouraged. I want them to be brave. And I want them to understand that they are not alone. I want children who are participating in bullying, and by participating, I mean whether they are the bully or they are enabling the bullying, to, have some compassion, to see Zaina and how she felt, how it made her feel, and to see, not only how it made her feel, but the people in her family feel. You can tell that they felt, for her as well. And so I want that to help establish some compassion there. And like I said, just open up the discussion, whether it's the teachers having discussions with the students, parents having discussions with their children, children having discussions amongst each other, about, how do you feel about how Zaina handled this, or what do you think about her friend doing this? I had someone gave me some good feedback about, her friend, and it's like, okay, well, I can't tell what's going to happen in the next book, but I just kind of, bring it back to, well, this book was all about getting everybody familiarized with Zaina. I want everybody to get to know who Zaina is, and then you'll learn more about the friends. But some people were saying, now, why didn't you have this friend take up for her more? Where were her friends when this was going on, and why didn't they do this and that? Well, that's because this is Zaina telling her story right now. This is her letting everybody know what happened to her, how she came to be Zaina the Brave, and then we'll get into more of her story and, her support systems a little bit later. Even though we show some of it, we're going to get into their lives a little bit later and their actions.
So this is like a little intro. Yeah. You got to anticipate, part 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So
I don't know if you read the last line of the book, but basically it hints around to there's a new book, there's more to the story.
And that is a wrap. Once again, I'd like to thank all of you for stopping by and checking out this broadcast. I'd also like to shout out Latasha Mason for being on the show. It's always such a pleasure to speak with you. Tune in on Friday for the third and final installment of the conversation with Latasha. You won't want to miss this. With that said, have a fantastic beginning to the week, and I can't wait to speak with you guys soon. Much love from me to you. Mwah. Miss Bollywoood out.